What to do with the state surplus. Also coming up, Governor Snyder's Super Bowl ad buy sets up the election year. Plus, Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan's 6-month promise. And City Council shakes up its leadership. It's analysis on stories making news across the state, and it's all right now on MiWeek.
Michigan's turnaround is being powered by things we do better than anywhere else in the world. Today's global leaders routinely turn to Michigan to work on their most difficult problems. That's because the engineering talent in this part of the world is simply the best. So many possibilities lie ahead for Michigan's future. These opportunities are here and starting to happen. The vision for the new Michigan. Share it, talk it up, drive it home. Funding is also provided by Delta.
Welcome to MiWeek, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Christy McDonald. If you could get past all of that snow and cold, it was a pretty busy start to the first full week of the new year. Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan has spent his first week in office, and he made a pretty big promise. We'll talk about that coming up. Plus, Detroit City Council changes leadership, and one member has a few choice words for a Detroit News editorial. Also coming up, a quick look on what to expect from the North American International Auto Show as journalists from around the world head to town this weekend. And we'll also cover Governor Snyder's Super Bowl ad buy and how that really sets up this election year. But first tonight, we're in the money. Okay, sort of. The state has a surplus, an estimated almost $1.3 billion over the next 3 years. So naturally, the argument in Lansing is over what to do with it. Should it go to roads, schools, perhaps a break on personal income tax? The governor may give us an idea of his plans next week during the State of the State address. So let's start right there with our MiWeek contributors. Nolan Finley, the editorial page editor of the Detroit News, and Stephen Henderson, the editorial page editor of the Detroit Free Press. Gentlemen, I love how you then all of a sudden sit up there. You're ready to go.
We were slouching. We were slouching before.
You were slouching before. All right, so it is a brand new year. We've got a lot of stuff on the docket, and I guess it's good news that we have some extra money to play around with. But of course, the argument always starts, and we are in an election year, how to spend that money wisely.
Well, and that's always, I think sometimes a surplus is a more dangerous thing than a deficit, because everybody's got ideas for how to spend the same pool of money 100 different ways. I think anyone who's driven on Michigan roads over the last few days knows that money, every dime of it, should go to infrastructure. We are woefully behind in maintaining our roads and bridges, and it's going to put us at a competitive disadvantage, and it's beating the heck out of our cars. The mirror fell off my truck the other day.
Well, that's very sad for your truck. But you know what? But if that didn't fly last year, and that was a huge part of the governor's State of the State last year, then how is it going to fly this year?
Well, I mean, they used part of last year's surplus for roads. What they haven't done, and I don't anticipate they'll do it again this year, is find a permanent funding source. So why not take this surplus and at least get through the election year when you can have maybe a more rational discussion about funding roads?
All right, so where should that surplus go? Should it go to roads?
Roads is a good idea. Early ed, I think, is another good idea. We're 60 million short still on the ask for that on an annual basis. I think the idea, though, is that it's got to be investment rather than just spending, right? You don't take a surplus and act like it's a splurge windfall kind of thing. You want to, and you also don't want to build in permanent cost to the budget with it. It's a surplus. It may not be there next year. It may not be there in 5 years. And so some of the ideas, for example, giving a tax cut, which essentially changes your ledger.
Well, why not give a tax cut? I mean, it would make people very happy. Well, you know, it would seem that would be a thing to do.
Let's cut taxes every year for that matter. I mean, the point is, we just got the budget balanced 2 or 3 years ago. You don't want to add costs, permanent costs, into a budget based on a surplus. A great analogy for this is in fact the problem with the Detroit pension funds in some way. One of the big problems they had was that they would have a surplus in a lot of years where they would make more money than they thought they would, or they'd have more cash on hand than they thought they would, and what they would do with it is they would plow it back into people's checks. They would give a 13th check to pension pension recipients, or they had set up these annuities. That's one of the reasons that the cost structure for the pensions doesn't work now. You can't do that. A surplus is a misleading term. I mean, it's an overage in revenue that can be a one-time thing, and if you build in permanent costs for it, you end up like the Detroit pension fund.
And the state just committed to a huge expansion of Medicaid due to Obamacare, and nobody knows how long the federal government is going to pick up the cost for that. And when when the federal government starts backing out, we're stuck with a huge entitlement here. I'm a big tax cut guy, but I think it's a little reckless to cut taxes at a time when you don't know what your future expenses are going to be.
And the election year is really going to make this an interesting conversation anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Republican majority wants to give a tax cut because they
looks pretty good when you're running for office again to say, look, I just cut your taxes.
Wait a minute, a lot of Democrats are calling for tax cuts.
I'm sure they will.
I mean, they'll argue over who gets the tax cut.
Right, right. This is what every representative wants to take home to their district in the fall and say, hey, look this is what I did for you, because it's one of the few things that your average voter can just relate to, right? You cut my taxes, so I like you.
I want to talk about the possibility of putting some more money with education. When we talk about education, it feels like, though, we break down into whether we're going to be talking about pre-K, K through 12, or higher ed. Yeah. And I think it starts to divide those camps a little bit. Will you start to see lobbying from those different areas of education when we say put it back into education?
Well, of course. And they all feel like they've been shortchanged. K-12 education in the state budget has not been shortchanged. Their money has not been cut. They've lost some federal money. They haven't lost state money.
They got cut.
They did not. They got cut one time and it's been restored. The universities have been cut. I mean, they've had serious
they've had a lot deeper
cuts, $1 billion out of their state funding. You might think about putting some money there, although they remain the most inefficient institutions in the state. And pre-K, there's
that's pretty
wow.
That's pretty harsh.
They do.
The most inefficient
government institutions in the state. The pre-K, though, I mean, we've identified that as something that could help make Michigan smarter, make us more competitive. And we're not funding it.
All right, last word on this.
Well, I mean, I think higher ed, too, we're behind. We lag other states in the way that we've invested in higher ed. It's not about whether they're efficient or inefficient. It's that we're just not investing the way we should. So I think they should be in line and, behind pre-K, which I think, but that's also not a big ask. They only wanted $120 million a year for that at the higher ed, and you're talking about billions that we need to be shifting there to catch up to other states.
All right, before we leave talk about state politics, let's take a look at the fact that Governor Snyder has bought a Super Bowl ad time again, and he still hasn't officially said if he's going to run again, but this would be the large signal that he's going to kick it off.
I'm not running.
Hey, I'm not running, right. I mean, that's it. But it really kicks off, and we're hearing this news again with the word that Mark Schauer is going to be using some public funds for the primary. What is that? How does that set up our race, Nolan?
Well, clearly, Mark Schauer is going to be outspent probably 10-1 unless the Democrats feel that's a competitive race and they start drawing in a lot of outside money. I don't expect that's going to happen. The governor is not going to take public funding. He will be well funded and he will have a pretty big war chest. And I think the fact that he's spending, is it $400,000 on these Super Bowl ads, suggests what sort of resources he's going to have in this race.
I think Schauer's camp would also continually say, though, that the governor still doesn't have the approval rating of over 50%. Stephen, what would you say the governor has to project to the state of Michigan to get reelected?
Well, I mean, I actually think he's in great shape to get reelected because of the competition he has. I mean, this is a governor with a very low approval rating. What is it, 36% now? I mean, that in any other context, that would be seen as a vulnerable incumbent. But Mark Schauer doesn't have the name recognition, does not have the money, as Nolan pointed out, or at least has not yet attracted the money.
Doesn't have ideas.
He's not laid out. I mean, look, I think he's got a lot of work to do putting together what he would do as governor of Michigan. He's done a good job of saying what he doesn't like about what the governor's doing, but you gotta have a platform. It's mystifying to me, quite frankly, how they're managing this, because this is a vulnerable incumbent who could be knocked off with a strong candidate. They're not even. It's almost like they're not even trying to make Schauer into that.
So they're not setting it up well.
Well, and there's some Democrats out there. I've been hearing some rumblings about maybe we ought to try someone else. Maybe we ought to have a competitive primary.
Gosh,
because
don't you
this
think
guy-
that's a little
that's a
late
bad
in the game
idea.
for that?
It's January.
I know, but
Well, and
still.
who would you throw
And that's
in
the
there?
problem. They haven't been able to find somebody willing to do it.
Yeah.
But there is some concern that this guy is just not lighting a fire here.
All right, well, we'll see. We'll see what that Super Bowl ad holds. And, oh, it is just the beginning of an election year, right?
Well, the great thing about this Super Bowl ad is the sort of bookend nature of it. I mean, this is how Rick Snyder introduced himself to people
Right.
4 years ago. Nobody knew
And
who
who
he
no
was.
one knew really who he
and
was.
Even after it, people were sort of chuckling a little, saying, well, is this guy really going to be governor? And, you know, he is.
Fast forward. All right. 6 months. That's what Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan wants residents who are thinking about bolting from the city to give him. The mayor says in 6 months, he'll be able to prove his administration can turn around a lot of big problems in the city, including poor busing, lighting. Is this possible, or is this too ambitious? I guess when you heard him throw that down and say 6 months, what did you think?
I'd be satisfied if he got Woodward cleared the snow and ice in 6 months.
They've done a pretty
People
good
can't
job
get out of the
so far with the
It
snow.
was pretty tough this week.
they
and
have not. If
Even in downtown Detroit, they had not cleared the ice.
As soon as you cross 8 Mile on Woodward, you know you're out of Wayne County, out of Detroit. It's been terrible.
All right, so basically you say the six month deal that he threw down, he should not have said.
He'll be lucky if 4 years from now he can say, I've made a big difference. I have started this improvement. You're not going to fix this problem in 6 months. I doubt you're going to make any real noticeable dent in it in 6 months, particularly when he still only has partial control of the city.
Do you think Detroiters appreciate, though, someone saying, look, give me 6 months, don't do anything yet, let me prove to you that at least we can start to pull things in the right direction?
Well,
I don't think he's saying he's going to solve it in 6 months, but that at least he's going to make a dent.
You should see things moving in the right direction. I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation. In fact, I think if 6 months from now we are not seeing some sign that he knows what he wants to do and can put it into place, we should start getting worried. We don't have that much time in Detroit. I mean, we talk all the time about the number of people who are deciding to leave, who just have had enough and have decided that the suburbs are a better deal.
So do they hear that? Do they hear that from Mike Duggan and they say, you know what, I'm going to think twice about that? Or has there been so much talk that talk really isn't going to do anything?
I think at this point people have to see something happen. They got to see something be different. And you think about the major issues that are going on in the city right now, the crime issue, which is a lot of it is perception. I mean, we did actually pretty well on most of the major crime
numbers,
violent crime numbers, the murder, shootings. That's the real driver. That actually went down last year.
Burglaries didn't.
Burglaries didn't.
Somebody gets in your house,
Yeah,
gets in
that's
your
not
neighbor's house,
safe,
you're packing up
sure.
and leaving because
Yeah.
you know, you might say, gosh, I'll wait 6 months a year for the street lights, I'll wait 6 months a year for better garbage pickup, for my roads and what have you, for the parks to be mowed. But if somebody breaks in your house or your neighbor's house, you're out of there.
But that's not on Mike Duggan. That is out of his
Police chief's
control.
not reporting to him, which I still think is a very, very odd structure, and it's going to come back to bite either Duggan or because that is the major issue for people in the city, and you've got to have somebody really driving that, and I think people expect that the mayor will be held accountable for it.
Do you think that Orr is waiting for Mike Duggan to prove himself? Will he say 6 months down the line, you know, I appreciate what you've done so far, and now I can see that I'm going to hand that part of it off to you? Or do you think that will never be on the table?
Orr is now on a 9-month.
As I say, he's about to leave.
He's on a nine-month schedule. He's going to I think he's going to laser focus on getting the things done that he can do. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of transitioning until the job's done.
All right, well, speaking of leadership change here, Detroit City Council changed their leadership this week, electing Brenda Jones as council president over Councilwoman Sontiel Jenkins. Councilman George Cushingberry was elected president pro tem. How will this new council and the way alliances are set up now work with the mayor and emergency manager, Kevin Orr? Stephen, let me start with you. What does this new council have to prove, or do they have to prove anything?
Well, I mean, I think they got to prove to voters that they are what voters wanted, right? I mean, this was another change election in the city of Detroit. Tremendous change at the executive level, change that no one thought was possible on a number of fronts. The new council was supposed to reflect that. And what do? First thing out of the box, they go and they elect Brenda Jones, who's not exactly been the voice of change.
Were you disappointed with that? When you saw that on Monday, were you disappointed?
I thought Untitled Jenkins was a better choice, a much better choice. At the same time, this is the process that we have. This is the way the charter describes that this gets done. I think you gotta give them a chance to, succeed or fail in these jobs before I'm ready to say this is a terrible mistake. I want to see what they do.
What's your barometer of success and failure, seeing as they don't have a lot of control?
The bar's
what will
really
you
low
personally
right now.
have to
Right, the bar's really low right now. Really, you just got to not be in the way of the things that are happening. I mean, as we go through the bankruptcy, as we talk about the restructuring, I think there are important questions that council can ask of Kevin Orr and of Mike Duggan about how we're doing this, how residents are affected. 7 of them represent neighborhoods, specific areas of the city. They should be looking out for those interests and challenging numbers and assumptions and decisions. But you can't be saying, no, we're not going forward. And that has been too often the way the council has been acting in this process.
Well, and that's what Brenda Jones has been doing for 4 years.
She's been doing it
or more. And I was extraordinarily disappointed to see this new council. Because, we really didn't know which way they were going to go. There were so many new members. To see them elect a person who's been an obstructionist, who has pandered to the unions, who's been in denial, who represents sort of the entitlement culture at City Hall. I don't think it's at all a good thing. I think it's a disastrous move. And, I believe that the council will have less voice and less influence because of it. I doubt Kevin Orr is going to work with a council who says no to everything.
Now, both of your papers put out editorials about the new moves on council, and you said council's
no
off
was
to a
nasty about it.
Your editorial, or the paper's editorial, said that it's off to a bad start. In the comment section of that editorial, George Cushingberry actually commented, and he said in his comment section, "Dear Detroit News, go to hell, go straight to hell, do not collect $200. I want to ask you, as both of you, how often do you get politicians responding to your editorials in that way?
I mean, you come across a crazy politician once in a while, and I expect George Cushingberry is on his way to becoming, a member of the Crazy Council Hall of Fame over there. I don't expect great things from him. Here's a guy who's had his snout in a public trough for 40 years. And I think he'll be looking out for George's interest and not the interest of the city.
Here's the interesting thing about what George pulled here. I mean, here's a guy who's been out of politics for a good long time. He gets back in. No one's quite sure what role he's going to play, but he masterminded quite a bit of this presidency. Getting Brenda Jones elected president and himself pro tem. Right now, he looks to me like the guy who's got the most, at least savvy and political juice on that council. I think.
And can you really? No, but hang on.
I'm not saying it's a good or a bad
can
thing.
you really discount that in knowing that if you've got to have council members who can get stuff done and make deals,
right. It is.
He did, and Brenda Jones did.
Well, if you get things done for your own benefit rather than the city's benefit,
right.
I think that's a whole different thing. This does not strike me early on as a council that's going to work for the best interests of the city, that's going to be part of the reform movement, that's going to embrace change, and that's going to be a council the governor will feel comfortable turning the city over to at the end of this
I mean, really,
term.
just like all legislative politics or anything where you've got a number of people, it's about the rule of 5. Can you get 5 people to do something? George Cushingberry, I think, showed this week he can get 5 people to do what he wanted here, and Untitled Jenkins couldn't, and I'm not sure Brenda Jones really could have done that on her own. I think he set himself up to be a pretty important voice there.
Any politician ever respond to an editorial or column of yours in the comment section?
Not in the comment section. That to me was new. Now I've got lots of nasty notes that have been penned to me and emails and voicemails full of inappropriate language from politicians. I think Nolan probably has 10 times the number that I do. But to do it in the comment section I thought was pretty interesting.
All right. Well, we'll move on from there. Now for a quick look at some of the other stories making news this week. The battle to stop Asian carp from wrecking the Great Lakes. The Army Corps of Engineers finally came out with a report years in the making that has some options to protect the Great Lakes from these invasive species. The most talked about option to permanently separate Lake Michigan from the Chicago area waterway system could cost $18 billion. All right, you can look at the science, you can look at the studies, but the question really is here, is the political will in Washington or even enough clout in the Great Lakes region enough to get support from Congress to pay for this? And I know that you talked to some of the Great Lakes governors this spring.
It better be. This is the largest body of fresh water in the world. We can't, I mean, we have a responsibility to protect it. And, you know, we have no problem spending $18 billion or more on bogus green energy schemes. This is a true environmental issue here that we have an obligation to address. And this report was weak. This report was, you know, sort of, well, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. And basically, the report supported just watching things for a few more years. Well, you can watch those carp swim right into Lake Michigan, and then the lakes are done. $18 billion is not too much to protect a resource of this nature. It provides $7 billion just in the fishing industry. Huge payroll off of those lakes every year.
How do you get the rest of the country to buy into that in terms of Washington?
Well, that's been our problem. I mean, I think our delegation has not been particularly persuasive in getting the rest of the country to focus on this issue. And I think you compare their effectiveness with the Chesapeake region's delegations. You look at the money that's been spent to restore the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland and protect that water, which is not fresh water. It's you know, connected to the oceans, but had its own pollution problems. They just have been more effective about it, and for whatever reason, legislators from Michigan and Wisconsin and Indiana and Illinois and, you know, other Great Lakes states have not been able to do it. And I don't think it's that people can't understand it, because they do understand it in the Chesapeake region. I think it's about their effectiveness.
John Boehner is a Great Lakes representative.
That's right.
This should be a higher priority. I mean, John Kerry got $14 billion for the tunnel in
Massachusetts,
in Boston. I mean, this is something that will affect the entire country if those lakes are overrun by these cars.
And bottom line, they need to make a decision about what the best process is, if it is the separation or if it is something else, and then they need to move on instead of just saying, all right, well, let's keep studying the study.
Well, the separation's the surest way.
Yeah, that's the only way to be absolutely certain that this does not happen, unless you want to tell people to start fishing them and eating them.
Yeah, but then you start talking. Then you start talking about the shipping industry, who uses that and you know, and moving goods. So it isn't entirely. It's something that we're still going to be talking about. All right, time to ogle shiny new cars in Detroit. The 2014 North American International Auto Show launches Press Week this coming weekend. It's the most influential auto show of the year. Vice President Joe Biden will be stopping by for a look. What are you looking to see there, Nolan? There is going to be a new F-150, right?
Going to be a lot of trucks.
A lot of trucks.
No one's buying a new truck.
This, you know, relentless push by the government to drive people into these little bitty cars. Trucks will still be the star of the show here, because that's what Americans want.
You drive a truck, don't you?
Thank God for it this week, right?
Right.
And I mean, I was just thinking on the way here this morning. I mean, when we get to the point where everybody's in these little battery-powered matchboxes, how are we going to get through 12 inches of snow and ice?
Gotta have a truck.
Spoken like a true Detroiter.
All right. So what are you looking forward to seeing, Steve?
I love the show, and I love the whole idea of the new cars, and you know, the sort of attention that we get during that week. I think one thing to keep an eye on is there are going to be a lot of people from Washington here next week, a lot of cabinet secretaries. It reminds us of this whole renewed interest in Washington, in Detroit, and the financial situation here. I think we still need more confirmation that this is for real, that they're going to stick with us, that they're going to help us out in every way they can. The show and the sort of attention from the cabinet secretaries and the vice president is probably a good opportunity for us to start asking some of those questions.
And if you're in the media and you like cars, booze, and food, it's a 3-day,
you get the gorge.
It's a bonanza.
Buffet, yes.
It's a bonanza. And again, I mean, to the point of not only will people from Washington be here, the journalists from around the world, and again, we'll be seeing a lot of the stories of the bankruptcy of the city.
And this will be the first show that all these journalists are here, and that we're in the bankruptcy. You know, the theme last year was Detroit's back. The auto companies were back, and it was the first big show post their bankruptcies. Now with the city in bankruptcy, I wonder if the tone will be different in some of the coverage.
Be interesting to see how they spin that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, and the thing that everyone is talking about this week, the snowpocalypse or the snowstorm of the century or whatever you want to call it. I call it my kids were home an extra 3 days. Look at that beautiful snow footage from right here at Detroit Public Television. Lots of snow, extremely cold temperatures. Does this just mean that we're getting soft, that we had a couple of really nice winters and we just can't handle this kind of snow anymore?
No, I don't know. This is it was never like this before. This is colder than it's ever been, right?
There may be explanations for it, but we did just an absolute terrible job of clearing the snow and getting traffic going. Even this morning, traffic was inching along. 4 days after,
there's ice. There's ice.
There's still ice out there. And when it's too cold, the salt doesn't work. We have to go with sand.
That's what they say.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for MiWeek. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week right here at Detroit Public TV. Take care.
Business Leaders for Michigan is dedicated to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and economic growth. Learn more at businessleadersformichigan.com. Funding is also provided by Delta,